Sound ba? Wala naman, no?
Wala.
As I always say before, no, whenever we say Manila, Manila was of course Intramuros, and during the Spanish period, and it was their prime city, no? And so everything that was about Philippine history and culture during the Spanish and of course the American period began and eventually developed in the walled city. And in the course of time, no, this would become also a prime urban tourism area, especially with the restoration and the heritage conservation that has been going on in the city. I think the biggest challenge for Intramuros is for it to be incorporated into that modernization without affecting the historical heritage of the walled city. I mean, accommodations can be done for the modernization that is happening. Internet, telephones, modern facilities for tourists, but it doesn't have to come at the sacrifice of what existed there before. I think that's one of the biggest challenge until today, for developing Intramuros. I'm Dr. Jose Victor Torres. I'm a associate professor here at the History Department of the De La Salle University. I teach Rizal and Philippine history here in the History Department. Well, I think it's because it's one of the closest place. If you're a foreign visitor, it's one of the closest place and one of the most visited based on tourism information. It's one of the most visited places in Manila. Because you have to remember, Manila is the capital city. And a capital city has to have its attraction, both old and new. And for so many years, that old attraction, I don't mean old because it's passé, it's old because it's part of our past, and the realization that there was something that remained behind for the people to know and experience and see with their own eyes is probably something that's an experience, a good experience for visitors, both foreign and local. I'd probably siguro describe Intramuros as rich. It's rich in heritage, it's rich in the Filipino identity, and it's very rich in our history and culture. And I think that would fit the description not only before but today. And as I always said, whenever you walk through the streets of Intramuros, you are walking through Philippine history.
Culture is about what human beings have been able to develop for themselves, no? In terms of artifacts, in terms of knowledge, in terms of traditions and customs. As an educational institution, knowledge is something that we deal with, and of course, if that's devoid of context in terms of the traditions of the people, of the needs of the people, in terms of the artifacts that we find around us, including technological artifacts, then it will be empty. So education must be infused with a lot of culture. So that's how I would tie them all together.
Intramuros is important because it is one destination, no, tourist destination in the city of Manila. And of course, this is a historical city. It is a city within a city because the schools are here, churches are here, institution, agencies, of course, the big churches here who always support the IA, and of course the training center who are here, the hospitals are within the city of Intramuros. My wish for Intramuros is orderly, clean city, and people should be in their perspective places. Like for instance, if hopefully in a couple of months or 3 months from now, the ISF will be relocated to resettlement site in Cavite or in Bulacan, because we want them to be in the respective homes. And of course, with that, Intramuros will rise again with this movement of informal settlers. We are not removing them from here because they are part of the community. They work here, they can come, they can live here, but they have to go to their respective permanent homes after resettlement. And of course, I wish also that Intramuros will be fully developed in terms of vacant lot, property. The owners will have this plan to develop their property here in Intramuros so that there will be no blighted areas anymore around. My name is Marieta V. Aliaga. I started working here in Intramuros in 1983, and this will be my 35th year in Intramuros administration. As Chief of the Urban Planning, I am responsible for the monitoring of construction in and around Intramuros. We are also in charge of the processing of the Intramuros Development Clearance. Intramuros should be cherished, should be loved, and should be taken care of, because Intramuros is historical. We are part of the history of the Philippines.
It was a very exciting time. That's what I remember most. I was on a holiday and I got a frantic call. Where are you anyway? They have been looking for you. And I said, what about? Having a restoration force as big as Intramuros was at the time didn't exist anywhere in the country. When we came into Intramuros to work, what are we restoring? We do not know. How did it look, except for the ruined walls? That's why we have to dig pictures and pictures and pictures just to be able to provide a background and tell people this is important. This part of the walls look like this. Everything was something that came to us by a calling, you'd say, that we have to do it right. Intramuros is a beautiful memory of the past. It is like a microcosm of all things good and bad. There are many good stories about Filipinos, people who headed the construction of the walls, and they were Indios. The carvers were Filipinos also. People should follow the regulations more, and that they should not seek exemption all the time. And this applies to both government, church, and private owners. Ana Esperanza Bunag Cartunton. I was hired, I would say, I was one of the first employed in the Intramuros administration structure, and that was pretty 1979. You have many people saying that Intramuros should not be preserved because it is a colonial memory and that should be erased. I don't think so. It represents failure. It represents achievement. So it's about time that our people should see Intramuros is not just a symbol of colonialization, but a symbol of our spirit to rise above that.
So naging special sa akin yung Intramuros dahil dito rin ako nakatira, so dito na rin ako kumukuha para sa hanap buhay namin. And then ang Intramuros din para sa akin is parang isang tahanan na rin para sa akin. So ang role ko dito sa Intramuros ay parang tayo naging nag-a-attract or nagpapa-attract sa mga turista dito sa loob ng Intramuros para kahit pa paano makita rin nila yung kagandahan ng Intramuros. Ako nga pala si Valentino Mejia, isang e-trike driver dito sa Intramuros. So ang nakikita ko sa future ng Intramuros is lalawak pa yung ating turismo dito sa loob ng Intramuros. And then talaga makikilala ang Intramuros sa buong Pilipinas, hindi lang sa buong Pilipinas, sa buong mundo.
If you're looking at Intramuros from the perspective of history, it's one place where you could actually see the history of the Philippines as it unfolded. I see that Intramuros is an area which can embody the concept of reuse in urban planning. So just think of old structures being utilized in a modern sense. I think the challenge for us in IA is how can we recreate the former ambience so that people can relive history through Intramuros. And then that's where it becomes a site where we can educate people on the version of history according to the Filipinos. So I'm Roberto Alabado III, and currently I'm the Assistant Secretary for Tourism Development Planning. And it's fantastic to have an urban area, an old urban area, wherein maybe in our generation we can see this transformed into a more developed society where poverty will no longer exist within the walls of Intramuros.
Very unique, one of its kind. It's a historical zone actually, no? You have lots of museum in and out of the walls, no? Jaime Jimmy Lim. I've started doing business here in 1988. I opened a small retail shop catering to Mapua students just in front of OWA, Overseas Worker Welfare Administration. And my main customer is Mapua. So now we thought of putting up this training center institute right in the heart of Intramuros. No? What better place, because it is a university hub. As you can see, we have 5 universities here and 1 middle school. We need more of this current administrator to see a better Intramuros. I'm very happy right now with the current administrator. Then what I hope for is a cleaner Intramuros. I hope all the stakeholders inside Intramuros will come together. We cannot all be leaders. Let's just follow the leader who is giving us the right direction.
I've been a resident of Intramuros for half of my life, and my children has grown to love this place. We are trying to promote Intramuros through our venue because we feel that this is one way of inviting tourists to come and experience Intramuros. This place is actually the ancestral house of my husband. So this is where he grew up. So he's been here for like his entire lifetime. So it really means a lot, not only to him and his family, but to us also. We would like Intramuros to be a premier tourist destination. My name is is Cosette Chua. I am the Managing Director of Pavilion de la Castellana. We are working closely with the administrator to further improve what we have. I believe that this is the only historical place that's left in Manila. In my own little way, I would like to think that I can contribute to its historical value.
Intramuros, as like I said, it is the noble and ever-loyal city. Its spirit will not die. This is our history. This is the story of our people. This is where everything started as far as this Manila is concerned. This is the history of our people. Fondest memory, of course, is going to Fort Santiago and learning a little bit of the history of Rizal. And then learning how, well, we were exploited, we were oppressed, but because of the resiliency and strong character of the Filipinos, we were able to survive all of that. I am Mengi Covarrubias. I am under the office of the University President, Dr. Leonora Vasquez de Jesus. At the moment, I am a consultant. I am handling now our tourism and hotel and restaurant management courses. Pamantasan ng Luzon ng Maynila was incorporated in 1965. It opened its doors in 1967 to its first batch of students. With PLM alone, this is a lot of history. So what we do now is we try to impress on our students the historical value and the cultural legacy of Intramuros. It is not simply the walls and the cobbled streets. So we try to impress that it's really part of our culture, our history, and our heritage. My role right now, like I said, is to impress the importance of Intramuros, that it is a part of our life, it is the story of our people. Now, coming from that, it can provide you with so many possibilities in terms of employment. You see, if we can improve our community, the shops to be open, restaurants, coffee shop, curio shops, we don't even have to look far. You know, if you're just thinking of employment, thinking this is something that we can do for our country. I don't think I have too much time. The near future to me was yesterday. So we hope that most of the original will be restored. I'd like to see more locals traveling here or coming around here, make use of this as their park, as their leisure places. In the meantime, learning a lot about history.
Every great and important city has an old town. Intramuros to me is Manila's old town. I have always been awed by Intramuros. It seems like when I'm coming here, there is an excitement that you feel that what happened in this place. There is something so sacred, so noble, so precious about Intramuros. I named it after my grandmother, Barbara, to just give it a Spanish flavor. And for some years, after a few years, we decided to really gear towards heritage so that people will see and know what is heritage, what is sinauna, yung kinaugalian natin, yung traditions natin, which will be seen in our cuisine and in our performances, in the dance that we present here in Barbara's. I would attribute it to my mom, to my mother, who taught me the value of work, the value of excellence, the value of feeding people in style and giving them satisfaction. I would want to happen that Intramuros will be remembered by every person who comes to this place because of its uniqueness, its sacredness, its history, its everything. There's so much here. I'm Barbara Gordon de los Reyes of Barbara's Heritage Restaurant. I have been in Intramuros for the past 30 years, which has been a great part of my work, my joys. It's like an adventure.
Intramuros for me is a place that tells you the story of Manila, the city that I was born in, the city that I work in, and the city that I live in and will probably live in for the next years. My life with Intramuros began in 1999 when I started volunteering for a museum, Bahay Chinoy. And it was from there that I started doing cultural work, and eventually which led to us establishing our tour outfit in 2005. Intramuros is a place of a lot of personal memories for me because I've been coming here since I was a little boy. I remember my first trip here was in the 1980s when we had a school trip at San Agustin Museum. And I distinctly remember getting freaked out because I went to a crypt with lots of dead people, and which nobody really explained what they were. So that fascination with Manila's history, with my personal family's history, began here in Intramuros. I think what we do here in Intramuros introduces people to our city. And by introducing Intramuros to our visitors, we tell them the story and we make them understand the city, my city, Manila, what it was, how it is today, and what it will be in the future. My hopes for Intramuros is to be a place that is anchored in its past, but at the same time, it's a place that can have new ideas for the future. No? A place that will inspire people, a place that will create good memories, and a place that will make you feel good about being a Manileño. I'm Ivan Mandy. I'm a cultural guide from Old Manila Walks, and we have been doing historical walks around the old city since 2005. I see myself as a cultural worker and a storyteller. And I tell basically the story of our city. And the story of Manila begins here in Intramuros.
Well, Intramuros for me is many things because my father used to work in the port area, in Bonifacio Drive in port area. So even as a small boy, I really knew Intramuros already back in the 50s. And I was very happy to have been appointed administrator in 1989. And that really involved me more with the history of Intramuros and the plans for its further development. It would be very important that we know where we came from, and I think that's the special value of Intramuros. But even in modern times, there could be or there should be, and as it's happening now, other developments here in Intramuros. I'm Jose Capistrano Jr., formerly administrator of Intramuros. Well, as what's happening now, Escuela Taller assists in the restoration of heritage structures through our training of out-of-school youth in the various arts and crafts of heritage restoration. And I think this is important to preserve our historical and heritage structures, and at the same time also reach out to other parts of the country for the same purpose.
Sa akin, special yung Intramuros dahil sa punong-puno ng istorya, historical yung Intramuros. Napamahal na rin po ako dito sa Intramuros dahil dito po ako nagtatrabaho. Ako po si Christian Roa. Ako po isang security guard ng Intramuros bilang isang katipunero po. Naitutulong ko po dito sa Intramuros na mapanatili po yung mga kalinisan, kaayusan, at matiwasay na pagpapatupad. Ni-expect ko po dito sa Intramuros dahil po sa lalong tumatagal, gumaganda siya at dumarami yung mga turista na bumibisita dito.
We start here in Fort Santiago, where we trace the prehistoric Philippines in the Kingdom of Ra Sulaiman.
He introduced me Manila, and I fell in love with it. That's why we started Don't Skip Manila, to say, okay, since I fell in love with your stories, why not let's share it to others and let other people to fall in love with Manila.
Don't Skip Manila is a tour group that conducts several tours in Manila, especially here in Intramuros.
We are the one who tells the story of this place and what's the importance of it.
We wanted to somehow see Intramuros evolve into not just the old Manila, rather the Manila what is and the Manila of the present. I'm Andre, and this is Han, and we're from Don't Skip Manila. Intramuros is a good backdrop of being in a place where the destination speaks itself.
Okay, so magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. At ito ang ating 56th episode ng Intramuros Learning Sessions. So this episode is brought to you by the Intramuros Administration. And again, this is your host, Rancho Arcilla from the Intramuros Administration. So today we're going to have part 3 of our Protecting Intramuros series under the Intramuros Learning Sessions. So to give you a recap on parts 1 and parts 2 in case you have missed them. So part 1, we previously had a talk on the urban and architectural regulations in the walled city. That was in April 16 with Attorney Beans and yours truly. So if you missed our previous episode of Protecting Intramuros, feel free to go to our YouTube channel and just key in Intramuros Administration. Part 2 is about the current conservation projects in the walled city. This was by architect Ranil Tibayan, and this was aired last May 27. So again, this is also available in our YouTube channel. Just search for the Intramuros Administration. And then for today, we're going to have part 3. So this is our part 3 of Protecting Intramuros. So today, we've already talked about the urban regulations and the current conservation projects in the walled city. So for today, for part 3, we're going to talk about Intramuros as a creative urban heritage district. So we're going to talk on how a historic place such as Intramuros can rebrand itself to keep up with the current times. Right. So for our talk, we're going to have none other than Sheena Botiwey. And but before that, I would like to remind everyone of some house rules first. So greetings to all those who are viewing via Zoom and via Facebook. So if you're viewing via Zoom, feel free to raise any questions or comments in the Q&A button below or in the chat button. So feel free anytime during the presentation, just key in your questions or comments. And then for Facebook viewers, you can use the comment section below the live feed for your questions or comments. Take note that only those who have successfully registered and viewed on Zoom will be eligible to get a certificate. And we shall give out certificates once you have filled out our feedback form. For those who are viewing via Facebook, there's still time to join via Zoom. So the registration link for this webinar is in the caption of this live feed. And note that this webinar is recorded.
Recording in progress.
And that the recording shall be made permanently available in IA's social media channel. Now, our speaker for today is Sheena Botiwey from the Intramuros Administration. So Sheena Angeli M. Botiwey is currently the Sales and Promotion Supervisor at the Intramuros Administration and concurrently the Technical Assistant to the Administrator of Intramuros, where she manages the agency's branding, special projects, and events. She has been working in the tourism industry for a total of 10 years in both the government and private sector. She has previously worked for Chiesa, where she handled promotions of incentives for tourism enterprise zones under the Tourism Act, as well as serving as project manager for site enhancement efforts during international events hosted by the government of the Philippines, such as, for example, in 2015, during the APEC, or in the ASEAN 2017, or in the Routes Asia and Madrid Fusion, Manila. Sheena has a BS in Tourism cum laude from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and is currently a scholar of the Development Academy of the Philippines under the Public Management Development Program, the government's Career Executive Service Department Program. Right, so without further ado, I would like to call on Ms. Sheena for the presentation. Sheena?
Hello, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's try to make this a little bit more informal kasi kami sa turismo, kwentuhan talaga to. Pag walang, sabi nila, pag walang kwento, walang kwenta, at wala kaming benta. So yan. So today, magkukwento lang naman talaga ako kung ano ginagawa namin, specifically yung itong pag pinag-uusapan natin ng branding and special projects and events. What does that mean talaga? Yeah, okay, so I'm going to tell you a story of Intramuros as a creative urban heritage. So, UNESCO, na-identify nila na there should be a different approach of managing historic sites. Kasi obvious naman na when you talk about heritage, for example, Manawi Rice Terraces or Intramuros, you cannot forget that there are people who are living in the area. So when you talk about preserving the heritage site, importante din na nakikita natin, na-understand natin yung relationship between the heritage site and the people there. And bottom line is, how do the people living in the area benefit also from the heritage site that they are protecting? Ayan. So ito yung in-adopt natin. The current administrator of IA and myself, we joined Intramuros 2017. So ang timeline ko medyo 2017 onward. Since the part 1 and part 2, I think they talked about how the agency has been working on protecting Intramuros since it started in the 70s. So, ito yung sinasabi ng UNESCO Urban Heritage Landscape. Na first of all, yung main role dapat natin pagdating sa heritage ay to protect the heritage. So yan na yung in-explain ni Architect Ramil, yan yung mga conservation, mga ganyan. Ngayon, ito yung pinakamahalaga kasi if it gets destroyed, for example, Taconwood, di ba? Isang disaster na masira ang walls natin, hirap na yan pag i-reconstruct na naman natin, di ba? So the whole point of us spending on the preservation and protection of the walls and the museums and things like that is because ito yung unique na characteristic na nandito sa Manila. So parang pag nasira na yung walls, bakit mapupunta yung tao in this side of Manila? So now, na-protect mo na yung heritage mo, how do we make now, since we're on the conversation, you're talking about the people, diba? How will they benefit from heritage? How do you make heritage accessible to the people? So when we started in 2017, syempre doon ko lang din nalaman na may mga community na nakatira sa Intramuros. Sabi ko, and usually, coming from the outside, diba? And what you read from social media, sobrang negative talaga yung pagkakilala natin dito sa mga informal settlers na nandito sa Intramuros. Tapos, tinanong ko, parang, bakit nasa labas lang sila? Nakita na kaya nila yung Fort Santiago Gate? Nakapasok na kaya sila ng museum? Baka naman, kaya ang akala ng public sa kanila ay they do not protect the heritage is maybe because they don't know what they're protecting in the first place. So yan yung gusto din natin ma-solve. How do we make the heritage accessible to the people? Kasi tayo, di ba, syempre we can afford to pay for entrance fees. Automatic yan sa mga field trip, ganyan. Or if you have friends visiting from outside the country or outside the city, parang it's just so easy for us to access these heritage sites. What about the others, di ba? Yan. And then third, dahil nga pinag-uusapan natin ay Sustainable Creative Heritage District, how do we make everyone benefit? At alam naman natin na malaking factor talaga dyan pera. Sa lahat ng talks ng heritage, nakakain ba yan? Yan ang laging gusto nating sagutin at bigyan ng ng linaw kapag pinag-uusapan natin ang spending on heritage. Bakit natin gagastusan ang pag-ayos ng sirang simbahan? Nakakain ba yan? Yan yung tawag dito, programming na gusto nating gawin kung paano magbe-benefit yung public and the vulnerable sector by means of protecting and promoting our heritage. Yan. Interestingly, in the Philippine Development Plan, for the first time, sinabi na culture and values, specifically Filipino culture and values, are actually important. And these is actually our means of creating a bigger narrative. Yung nation building, kumbaga, at yung kultura ng Pilipino, the more you get to know your culture, the more you get to know your values, you'll have a strong sense of identity to to help contribute in society. Like ako, the reason why I'm working in the tourism industry, when I was in grade school, gusto ko maging virologist. As in, I wanted to find a cure to the Ebola virus. But I got into a student exchange. I went to Japan. And then sabi ko, grabe, yung identity ng Japanese. I was 12 years old at that time. Sila yung pinaka-advanced sa technology na alam ko at that time. And then, pagpunta namin doon, ang talagang fino-focus nila ay identity ng mga Japanese. So now, even in the, diba, if you work with them, ganyan, we already know kung ano yung values nila, tayo yung mag-a-adjust kasi kilala natin sila na ganun. So for me, parang gusto ko din yun for the Philippines. And tourism nga yung nakikita ko na industry na pasukan in the future for my career para ma-promote to, Filipino culture and values. Yan. So sabi dito, it was literally stated in the Philippine Development Plan na heritage spaces like Intramuros, like Luneta, yan. These should be spaces to be used for civic cohesion. So basically, itong mga lugar na ito, ay dito dapat tayo nag-uusap-usap. Let's go back sa history, diba? Ako, igorot ako. So alam ko na may mga town hall talaga. Lahat ng decision ng community, pinag-uusapan yan. Lahat na, yung leadership to the workers, ganyan, tapos normal citizen, meron silang space and time to engage. At yan yung sinasabi ng Philippine Development Plan na dapat daw itong mga heritage sites ay gamitin natin to boost, basically para mag-usap-usap tayo and then use our creative skills. The Filipinos are naturally creative people. At sinasabi dito na yung creativity daw natin as a nation, ito daw yung tutulong sa atin para mag-solve ng mga problems in society. So nakikita niyo dito, once Philippine culture and values are promoted, mag-create daw ito ng social fabric na ang Pilipino ay naturally malasakit eh. And I think the best example here is the community pantry. Diba? There were spaces where people were able to show their empathy to our fellow men. Diba? And sometimes, ako naniniwala talaga ako sa value ng Filipino value ng bayanihan na Filipinos are always willing and ready to help. Sometimes they just need a platform, diba? So yeah. So sabi dito sa Philippine Development Plan, pag na-create na daw natin yung social fabric na or na-enhance natin yung social fabric na may malasakit tayo sa ating mga kababayan, this will now lay down the foundation for inclusive growth, diba? And when you talk about development now, diba ito, skip ko na yan. Yung Sustainable Development Goals na pinag-uusapan ng lahat ng bansa, di ba? Developed countries to developing countries. Pinag-uusapan na when you talk about development now, hindi na lang pera ang pinag-uusapan. Pinag-uusapan natin yung improvement ng quality of life ng mga tao. Poverty, hunger. So, ang dami-daming, basically, lahat ng countries na nag-support dito sa Sustainable Development Goals. Ito yung mga gusto nating i-address when we talk about development. And kung yung international guidelines ay itong Sustainable Development Goals, itong Philippine Development Plan, yung national version ng ating pag-contribute dito sa Sustainable Development Goals. So I shall go back lang yan. So indicator. So syempre kami, national agency kami. So tinatanong din kami pag ginagastos ang budget, saan ba yan napupunta? And syempre kami, dahil syempre kami yung parang, bakit parang pa-fun-fun lang sa Intramuros, puro party, puro concert, parang ano ba yung point niyan? Yan. So syempre, kailangan din namin i-justify yan. So ito nga, sinasabi natin na we are opening the spaces to be used by people for social cohesion. So nagkakaroon tayo ng exchange, diba? We learn from each other because of that exchange. So now, dahil in-open natin yung spaces or ginawa nating accessible to more people, dadami na yung foot traffic. Diba? Dadami yung taong pupunta doon. And easiest way to describe how tangible of a result this is nung nagkaroon ng pandemic, diba? Kaka-start ng GCQ, konti pa rin yung mga tao lumalabas. Medyo takot pa lumabas yung mga tao. One of my favorite taho vendors, sabi niya, ma'am, kailan ka ba mag-event split? Kasi hindi ako makaubos ng taho. So parang ako, syempre tumalikod ako, umiyak ako, kasi hindi ko masagot kung kailan kami ulit mag-e-events. Ganun ka-important yung events para sa kanila. Na for some, parang fun lang yung ginagawa niyo. Pero for us, increased food traffic in the district means more business opportunities for the most vulnerable in our community. So ating karinderya vendors, mga pedicab, ganyan. But also, looking at the private sector naman, dahil sa dumami yung events namin since 2017, ang daming businesses na nag-locate and nag-open sa Intramuros. So now, the private sector, okay, it's worth investing in that district that used to be, just a venue for weddings or photo shoots. Ayan. And then now, in the grander scheme of things, habang ginagawa natin itong mga bagay-bagay, ayun, napropromote natin yung Filipino values natin. And then, makikita natin, I'll show you later, yung mga interagency, makikita nyo na, sometimes kasi I feel like people have a misconception of what the government is. They don't really understand how the government works. And sometimes you hate on one thing about the government and you hate the whole government already. I hope this talk or my kwento later will help you see na ang dami naman other government, like kami sa gobyerno, dahil magkakaiba kami ng mandato, pero pare-parehas kami na better Philippines, better quality of life for our countrymen, ang aming gustong mangyari. Kaya nagtutulong-tulungan kami. And then you'll see also later na join na dyan ng public sector, join na yan yung mga embassies, mga international help natin. So makikita niyo na yung bayanihan. It's more than Intramuros as a community, but nagbibuild siya organically nagbibuild siya ng network ng mga tao na gusto lang naman talagang tumulong. Ayan. And then yan more nagkakaroon tayo ng avenue to do awareness on some campaigns and programs like Rights on PWD and LGBTQIA, indigenous persons, yan. Tsaka what's special talaga here, and I'll show you later, is really reminding the people of our history and yung identity natin. Sino ba tayo? Diba? Bakit ba lagi ang focus ay we were colonized? And Intramuros parating, we are always, that's a symbol that we were colonized. Nakakalimutan yung narrative natin na kahit gas-gas yung resiliency, resilient talaga tayo because when you look at history, all the earthquakes and the fire and the natural disasters and all the wars at nag-agaw-agawan tayo ng mga, diba, colonizers, makikita natin yung warrior spirit, yung palaban talaga na spirit ng Filipino na kahit anong pagdadaanan niya, diba? Laban pa din. Yun. Okay. So there. When we talk about naman Intramuros as a cultural heritage district, ano pinag-uusapan natin sa culture? So according to UNESCO, ito yung mga museum, cultural landscape, andito yung arts, music, festivals, photography, arts and crafts, books, yan, film and video, fashion design, yan, diba? And itong mga cultural domains na daw to will help promote tourism and at the same time, they are products of tourism. So, basically, I'm gonna show you with ano yung mga projects and events na ginawa natin kung paano natin na-maximize or na-promote ang ating cultural assets as Filipinos dito sa pag-build ng Intramuros that we know of today. And the best way, because I've been invited to a lot of career talks for students in the past month, na-realize ko the best way for people to understand it is look at BTS. They are a band. Alam mo yung dati, sasabihin ka, wala kang mahihita sa music, hindi yan helpful. Wala kang magiging career dyan. Ngayon, you cannot say that anymore because, hello, look at BTS. They are just one band. And ang laki ng contribution nila sa ekonomiya ng Korea to the point na, di ba, a law was created for the 2 members lang na ma-defer yung kanilang mandatory military service kasi ang laki ng dent sa ekonomiya nila kapag nag-stop yung BTS, di ba? And then, I'm only talking about one band. What about K-pop, diba? Pero kasi Korea, it's a whole discussion altogether, but the government really started infusing in the cultural creative economy in the 90s, coming from an identity crisis after the war. So, sabi ko, parang ganun din naman dito sa Philippines eh. Parang maybe kulang pa tayo sa pag-strengthen ng Filipino identity. And maybe the arts and the culture, the creative economy can help us strengthen that identity of a Filipino. So, yun nga, pagpasok kasi namin, parang the past administration started rebranding Intramuros talaga. Honestly, like, they laid down the foundation, and we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the projects and events that we were able to do since 2017 if hindi nila sinimulan. So I'm gonna share lang this video of how what the vision was of Intramuros was, coming from pupunta ka lang doon for a wedding or magpo-photo shoot, and then that's it. Ayan. So this video revealed the new logo of Intramuros. So nakita nyo naman, di ba? It's an animation. So obviously, gusto natin ma-capture also the younger market. Kasi sila naman yung mas gusto talaga nating matuto kung ano ba yung history and culture ng Pilipinas, di ba? And yan, basically, we just continued with what they started. So, noong 2019, we celebrated the 40th year of Intramuros. And then, jumping off from that we want to cater to a younger market, sabi namin, sandali, bakit ang responsibility lang ng pag-protect ng Intramuros ay sa atin? I mean, yeah, that's the mandate of our agency, but wait lang. Heritage, Intramuros, is the patrimony of every Filipino. Pamamay-ari natin itong lahat. So, hindi lang, yung mindset dapat natin, hindi siya yung, dapat Intramuros lang yung mag-protect at mag-promote ng Intramuros. Hindi, dapat tayong lahat. Kaya yung campaign namin for our 40th year, so we are Intramuros. So we are supposed to be part of protecting it, preserving it, and promoting it. And dito talaga, finocus namin na when you understand Intramuros, you shouldn't only be thinking about the structure, but more so the people who are part of this city.
If there's something about Manila that hasn't changed ever since, it's the lovely sunrise and sunset. As if reminding us that in all the chaos, there's still beauty to find in this place we all call home. And moving around it every day, doing the things that we have to do, we completely forget the invaluable history that it holds and the endless possibilities it can achieve. As Intramuros administration celebrates its 40th year, we also celebrate its people. As we work together, inspire each other, and teach one another the many ways why this city is a place we will always love to call home. Standing as one, so that we never forget the past that taught us how to survive, so we can move forward with a strong heart to build a future that we can all be proud of. We are Intramuros.
And so, part of that now is, dahil nandun na tayo sa creating interest, how do we bring people now to the district? Paano ba natin dadamihan yung mga taong pupunta doon and will actually be interested to learn about our history and our culture? So, when we started, we wanted to create more attractions. Kasi parang sometimes after a field trip or pag nagpunta ko doon, ba't ako babalik sa Intramuros? Napuntahan ko na lahat. So, naghanap kami ng mga bagong attraction na pwedeng ma-develop. So, ito, dati siyang storage facility inside Fort Santiago. With the help of the Danish Embassy, Felta, which is a private company who brings in Lego to the country, we opened up the I Make History Fortress. So, makikita nyo sa I Make History Fortress, and I get so passionate when I talk about this, is we got donations of Lego bricks from Lego and through the embassy. And then we had a competition. It was open to all architecture and engineering schools all over the country for them to recreate using Lego itong mga buildings na wala na sa Intramuros. Churches, or like the earlier versions of the Manila Cathedral, or the Ayuntamiento, ganyan. So nakakatuwa kasi it was an open call and we got entries from all the way up north, Kalinga, all to south sa Surigao. Yeah, as in, ang challenging nun kasi we had to bring the blocks, the Lego bricks to them, and then yung shipment papunta dito na buo na siya. Diba? So, nakakatuwa. And then, dito namin nakita na engaging the youth talaga is one of the best ways for you to contemporize the idea or the concept of heritage and culture. Kasi sometimes, bakit ba yung usapin ng culture at heritage boring? So ito yung way natin to make it fun, to make it appeal to the younger generation. Kasi when it comes to play talaga, and which is what Lego Education does, they do robotics and things like that, to try to make students learn better by play. Yeah. Next, distillery lim to ako. So, syempre, ocular kami nung bago kami. Na-discover namin to. Tapos, hindi siya open to the public. And the late Carlos Elran, he kept raving about it na, there's this museum, but it's not open ganyan. So, we spoke to the owners, si na Madam Olivia Limpeao, tapos in-encourage talaga namin. Si administrator talaga, he was very passionate in convincing them na parang, maybe it's about time. Kasi the idea, it was a family museum for them lang. So sabi ni Sir, parang, I think it's about time you share to the Filipino people the story of the oldest distillery in the country. And ako, I've been bringing a lot of friends there, and they're like, after a visit, they're like, wow, I'm so proud to be Filipino just by visiting this museum. Kasi nakikita mo talaga na they've been there from Spanish time, tapos nag-survive sila ng martial law. Kasi ang dami, tapos makikita mo talaga na isa sila sa mga unang nag-push ng women empowerment, equality in the workplace, things like that. And you'll just be very proud na yung mga products nila, mas sikat siya abroad than here, like yung mga awards nila. And these are things that people should know. Kasi ako personally, yung love of country ko talaga, nag-grow siya the more I get to know about the Philippines. And I learn most from museums. So, in-encourage talaga namin buksan. And what's nice here is they partnered with Lyceum, which is a school right across. So, yung tourism students nila, nag-OJT dyan. So, and then we had the National Historic Commission of the Philippines help them curate the museum also. So, it was really a partnership of many people that opened one of the very famous na attraction in Intramuros. And syempre, ang panghila talaga dyan at the end, you have the option to taste test. Ayan. Tsaka maganda kasi yung mga liquor products nila, they actually support a lot of farms. So, malalaman nyo din yan pag nag-visit. So, pag nag-open na sila in better times, please do visit the distillery lang ako. Okay, I will skip this video. Ayan, I'll skip it na lang. But basically, the Spanish Embassy opened the Instituto de Cervantes in Intramuros because, of course, it makes sense that in the Spanish Heritage District in Manila, dapat may language school dyan, di ba? So yun, what's nice, this is a project of the Spanish Embassy from the past administration, but natapos lang siya during our time. But what's great here kasi is now we have a library open to the public. They also help the children in the community. Minsan may mga reading yan in Spanish even, ganyan. Tapos may mga film screenings, may mga talks, ganyan. So nasa strengthen now, parang beyond we were colonized by Spain. Now, we talk about, how we both enrich each other's cultures. And actually, dami ko natutunan yan. Even how we contributed in the, how, because of the Galim trade, Filipinos went to Mexico and they taught the Mexicans how to make lambanog. And then eventually, because of how they did lambanog, the Mexicans invented tequila. And as a tequila drinker, I'm like, wow, hey, we kind of contributed to that. So that's cool. Yung mga talks, ganyan, na-enrich din yung pride mo as a Filipino. And of course, one of, syempre favorite ko to, Museo de Intramuros. This is a 4th-year project in the making, and honestly, we all feel so humbled and honored to be part of history. But, yun nga, going back to the narrative na bakit all about colonization, the ecclesiastical collection here in this museum tells the people now what is our contribution in Christianity or in ecclesiastical art. Makikita nyo dito talaga yung, yung reaction ng mga ancestors natin nung dumating yung Christianity and how they translated that to art. It's amazing. You'll see, ako, may mga bulol, pero angel. Or like, how the urnas in abroad are like, ang fruits nila ay grape or apple, ganyan. Pero yung sa atin, yung magawa ng ancestors natin, banana, pineapple. Kasi when you talk about fruit, those are the fruits that they know. Those are the fruits that they see. So it's interesting. Please do visit the Museo de Intramuros. Sobrang dugot pawis ng lahat ng empleyado namin yung ano. Kasi we had like less than a year to open it when we started. So, syempre, pagdating dyan yung rebranding, kaya yung photo ko sa intro, pinakita ko talaga yung pamaypay kasi proud ako dun sa design ng aming pamaypay para sa nung opening ng Intramuros. Kasi the Intramuros. Yan. When Intramuros at that time, parang hindi nila alam na ang dali lang pala niya puntahan, na isang sakay ka sa LRT, isang tawid sa underpass na sa Intramuros ka na. So sabi namin, syempre, lumapit din sa amin yung beat, sabi namin, yeah, people don't know that you can ride the LRT to get to Intramuros. So we had a partnership with them na magkaroon ng special design Intramuros cards na basically, syempre, ang peg natin ay yung Hong Kong Octopus card, di ba? Na you'll be able to ride a train, and then pagdating sa Intramuros, you'll be able to use your beat card also to enter our sites. Ayan. Currently lang, ay Fort Santiago and Bavaria to Santiago are open now. May glitch lang ngayon kung bakit hindi. Pero inayos namin yan para in the future matuloy yung magamit ito. Pero nung start kasi, yung mga events namin, ang konti lang na nagpupunta. Kahit yung students namin in Intramuros, and we have 4 universities, hindi ko naiintindihan bakit ang hirap nila hilahin. Libre naman yung mga events. So ito yung beep card. Ito yung first 10, first 50 to go to this museum or ganyan. Yan. Dumami talaga yung foot traffic dahil sa beep. Hindi ko naman alam na ang dami palang nagko-collect ng card. Anyway. Yan. So, again, trying to rebrand Intramuros to be more contemporary, to be more up with the times. Yan. So, we redesigned yung walking maps natin. And this is coming from the survey that the DOT did in 2016 na mga tao at that time wanted to tour themselves. Kasi all the information is in a click of a button, diba? So, sabi namin, okay, kailangan people will be able to tour themselves, DIY tour, using the map. So, apart from ginandahan namin, nagkaroon tayo ng bagong wayfinders. So, using the map, may mga numbers dyan, tapos, yung wayfinders, yung magsasabi sa'yo kung nasan ka, and then ito yung second photo, it tells you what attractions are within walking distance. Kasi nung time na yon, parang people only know of Fort Santiago, Casa Manila, Baluarte, San Diego. They did not know na ang dami pang other museums na pwede mong puntahan. So kaya namin ginawa tong wayfinders na parang, okay, nandito na ako. Sige, malapit na. And again, syempre ang peg natin sa wayfinders, Hong Kong, Europe, ganyan. Ang dami naming iteration sa design na to hanggang naintindihan ng pedicab driver. Kasi you know when you go to Intramuros, the first people you're gonna ask are our security guards, or mga pedicab, or mga vendor, di ba? Hindi naman ikaw dediretso sa tour guide, di ba? So yan. Another consideration here is walking distance. Syempre sa ibang bansa, ang walking distance 500 meters. Pero dito sa atin, nasa 300 to 350 meters lang. So, yun, change na namin talaga yung design. Again, when we talk about design here in Intramuros to make it more accessible to the people nga, is naiintindihan ba or nagkakaintindihan ba tayo ng market na gusto natin? And in the works now, and John here is a very, very special project manager of this, is we're creating an Intramuros app. It's a partnership with Smart. Na yung wayfinders natin, di ba nakita nyo yan, yung may eye sa taas, magkakaroon na ng link soon na more information, and then you'll be able to see old photos or yung mga videos namin sa social media, malilink na siya doon para one stop. You'll be able to get all the information as you go around. Yan. Yun, part of making people talaga visit Intramuros is we created this one-day pass. Siyempre, hindi lang naman yung attractions ng Intramuros yung focus namin. We also want the other private museums na rin pinilit namin i-open, di ba? So, yun, how will they also benefit from a bigger foot traffic? So, create namin ito na discounted car pass for you to be able to go to the site. And pre-pandemic, mas-skip mo pa yung line. So, bentang-benta to. And then, funny enough, Manila Hotel, sobrang lapit lang, diba? They had a concern na parang they had a lot of guests, but even they were scared to go to Intramuros on their own kasi daw, baka maloko sila ng tour guides, ganyan-ganyan. Again, this was coming from the time na hindi lang siguro tayo nag-uusap-usap, diba? So, because we acknowledge that Manila Hotel is an important part of our heritage also, kailangan may connection din. Katabi lang namin, di ba? How do we engage with them? So sila naman, they cater to a higher market. So of course, iba rin yung demographics, iba yung needs ng market na yan, di ba? So what we did, at ang challenge nga dito ay yung tour guides. Hirap yung mga guests nila makakuha ng tour guides to bring them around the district. So sabi namin, okay, if you're more comfortable, sige, we'll train your concierge staff. Kasi baka mas comfortable yung Manila Hotel na yung guests nila from hotel to outside, you know, they're able to deliver the same service expected of a guest staying in the Manila Hotel. So, yun, things like that. And after nila, parang Henry Hotel, and there are other hotels also na gusto din namin gawin yan. So, yeah, nag-expand yung again, how to make it accessible, not only to the vulnerable, but also to the more higher paying. Kasi syempre, at the end of the day, kita pa rin, diba?
ng Intramuros.
Sorry, okay. Yun, haba kasi ng video. But anyway, the point there is, yun nga, I was talking about resources, diba? And ang dami talagang agencies in the government, sa NCCA, Design Center of the Philippines, Philippine Development Council, ang dami naming agencies na ang trust talaga ay culture and arts, yan. So, paano natin sila magiging partners? And syempre, sa amin, pagdating sa programming, hindi naman kami ang expert dyan. So, we had memorandum of agreement with Philippine Development Council, Design Center of the Philippines, na parang kung meron kayong mga events, gawin yan na lang dito sa Intramuros para pumunta ka dito, maging aware sila. So, since ang Design Center, ang thrust nila talaga ay Filipino design. So sa amin, okay, it's not enough that they do arts and craft events here. Sabi namin, how will the community benefit? Kaya na yung pinakita kanina yung sa pedicab drivers na, okay, maybe we will be able to help uplift, the pedicab drivers kung gandahan natin or magkaroon ng bagong design yung kanilang pedicab. So, yun yung product na more than the events, na may music and may arts and crafts silang is merong tangible and long-term contribution yung event dun sa aming community. And another product of the Design Week that they've been doing since 2017, parang twice a year since 2017, is this. Again, we going back to the narrative na nakakalimutan. When you think about Intramuros, it's always the Spanish era pa akyat. Nakakalimutan kung sino ba yung first settlement doon. Sino ba yung mga unang bayani? I mean, nakipaglaban para i-protect yung area na yun, di ba? Sina Sulaiman, Ramatanda, ganyan. And actually, starting from that, now nakikita natin na we also, and because we're celebrating the quincentennial, di ba? We now also have, I was just thinking, we also have to have a space in Port Santiago to talk about the Battle of Pangkusay. So, yan yung mga narrative na nakakalimutan ituro sa school. Honestly, ako, hindi ko yan na-encounter. Nung estudyante ako. I hope now, the way history is taught is more improved. Pero yan yung mga ways of using art to educate the people. And Team Manila, sikat na sikat yan. Alam naman natin, di ba? And they partnered with the Design Center to come up with the mural of Sulaiman. So now, even with the guide, sabi namin, pagpasok ng Fort Santiago, unahin nyo, look to your right and remind people about Sulaiman, Ramatenda before talking about the Spanish occupation. Ayan, so ito yung pedicab drivers. And the other project that we were talking about to help our pedicab drivers is, apart from the design, we asked the help of the Department of Tourism to teach them proper community guiding. And actually, nagpirmahan pa sila with Mayor Isko before the start of pandemic. Magsa-start na dapat yung official tour guiding capacity ng mga pedicab drivers kaso pandemic. Pero makikita niyo talaga na because they were trained at alam na nila, tama na yung kwento, tama na yung mga script na sinasabi nila sa turista. grabe, if you talk to them, makita mo na merong pride of place talaga na kung dati iniisip, ay nako, mga eyesore yung mga yun, makikita mo, sila yung number one na nagbe-make sure na, dapat yung experience ng lahat ng turista dito sa Intramuros, kailangan natin pangalagaan kasi isang bad, ina-explain namin sa kanila na isang bad experience lang, pupunta yan sa social media, ang hirap na naman natin ayusin, mawawalan na naman sila ng tiwala para kuha ng services sa inyo. So yan, naging partner talaga namin sila dahil aware sila of the bigger picture. And now that they see their value, they see how important they are in the grander scheme of things, partners na kami, mas sila yung tumutulong sa amin.
Ang turing namin sa customer kasi yung parang kapatid o kaibigan, ganyan. 24 years na ako dito sa Intramuros nagtitinda. Dito lahat kami kumukuha ng panggastos namin. Dito kumukuha ng paaral. Lahat ng kailangang na bibili ko dahil dito.
Dito sa hanap buhay namin, hindi lang kami yung nagbe-benefit. Marami rin kami mga natutulungan. Kadalasan yung mga palaboy na mga bata na nanghihingi ng pagkain. So, yun na lang, natutulungan din namin sila sa magitan ng pagbibigay ng pagkain sa kanila.
This is a very special project to me kasi this is one of the first few projects na talagang nakita ko how design can actually help, solve the problems of society. And nakita nyo naman, di ba, na-inculcate talaga sa mga vendors, sa karinderya vendors na may rule kayo dito. Hindi lang, for them, they're just making a living, honestly. Magbebenta ng pagkain. Pero, nalalaman mo as you talk to them, as you engage with them na may role pala sila na mag-provide ng affordable food for students. So now, dahil nanay ka, and most of the vendors are mga nanay, they make sure yung pagkain is healthy. They make sure that the food is affordable, di ba? And yun yung nakikita mo sometimes na parang when you talk about governance, or like managing a district like Intramuros, sometimes feeling mo, it's just coming from, the government. Kung sino dapat magsasabi, ano yung dapat gawin, ganyan. Pero makikita mo na if you really talk to the people and engage with the people you're trying to govern, they can add to to enrich a simple project lang, which was like, ayusin natin kasi ang pangit ng itsura ng kiosk. And what's amazing about this project, and I actually cried, I cried when the vendors were making kwento na when they were asked, ano yung mga gusto nyong i-improve sa kiosk nyo? Siyempre isipin natin, dapat mas malaki, dapat yung kulay ganito, hindi. For them, sana may electric fan para hindi mainitan yung mga estudyante. Sana may charger kasi minsan may mga nag-rush ng project ng mga estudyante, wala akong ma-offer na. Parang at the end of the day, they still want to help ka, even though sa amin you think na sila yung mas may kailangan ng tulong. So this is the project actually that set the mood and set the tone for all the projects that in-engage namin after that involve the community, is how to empower the community for us to both benefit from it. So yan, ito pala sorry, may slide pala. No? So before, when we came in, they were taught na sanitation, financial literacy, ganyan. So now, how do we move forward? So, syempre yan nga, yung looking at fixing their kiosk. Ang lang, kaya hindi natuloy yung project na yun, of course, yung cost efficiency, medyo mahal yung gawin to create the prototype that came out of that project, But at least they now know that we really actually genuinely care about them. So nung labas yung ordinance na wala na sa streets, they were more participative na, okay, we'll go to the vendor from the streets, we opened up spaces for them na doon na lang yung mga vendors. And syempre, worry nila nun, hindi na ako pupuntahan, ganyan. And we said, hindi. Kasi yung tao, pupunta yan kung nasan. Kasi pagkain may masarap, ikaw ang pupuntahan nila. So huwag kayong matakot na pag ninalis namin kayo sa streets at nilagay namin kayo sa area na better for you kasi finally may running water. Yan. Makikita na nila na kung may resistance at first, they will understand why we are doing it. At yun. Sila mismo yung kakausap sa mga ibang kasama nila na nagre-resist sometimes sa mga policies na ginagawa na. Ayan. And this project, dahil nga, okay, beyond design, what else can we do? I observed kasi na parang the food that they're selling, medyo pare-pareho. And then, my experience for traveling in Southeast Asia, and then, when Makansutra Singapore came here, sabi, bakit walang Hawkers Plaza dito sa Intramuros? If this is like the heritage city, bakit konti yung food? Tapos sabi ko, oo nga, no, like the hotels and restaurants, they serve the higher market. And then the karinderya, they serve the students and the general public. Wala yung in-between. Tapos sabi ko, dahil pare-pareho yung niluluto nila, at laki ako outside Manila, and I always, you try to remember home. Sabi ko, and sa DOT, mahilig talaga kami i-promote yung mga regional flavors, diba? So sabi ko, why don't we bring in chefs from the provinces to come to Manila and mentor the vendors? And then they will come up with a heritage dish. Para, the next time you visit Intramuros, you get to taste flavors from all over the country. Diba? So now, imbes na hindi na nakikater ng mga vendors, yung mga higher end or yung mga tourists, dahil ang produkto nila, it's like you'll be able to taste the whole of the Philippines when you visit the carinderia vendors. Ayan, nagkakaroon tayo ng better product. So win-win for Intramuros kasi more reasons for people to visit us, and win-win for them kasi then they get a bigger piece of the pie. Diba? So yun lang, nagka-pandemic, i-roll out na dapat namin yan March to December 2020, pero yun. Hopefully, when the situation's better, magawa namin siya. And to ensure sustainability, we partnered na with Lyceum kasi meron silang culinary school, diba? So as in, they offered na, may muwa na kami that we'll be able, the chef and the vendors will be able to use their cooking laboratories to come up with the dishes. And then, ang maganda dito, to ensure sustainability, dahil continuous naman ang students, yung students na, yung magmo-monitor, tama pa ba ang standards ni Manang, diba? Now, the students also will be able to practice yung how to promote, diba? How to take proper photos for food, diba? So, the things that they learn theoretically, actual application, nagbe-benefit pa yung vendors, diba? So, win-win for everyone. So, hopefully, magawa namin yan. It's a video, but basically, this is Museo del Prado project with WTA, design architecture firm, and then the Spanish embassy. So, basically, You know how sometimes in culture, parang ang hirap pumunta ng tao sa museum kasi parang, not for me, parang masyadong pangmayaman lang yan. So ginawa ang project nito basically is bringing art to the streets na makikita mo na parang hindi naman dapat pang mayaman, pang mahirap. Alam mo yun, dapat walang dichotomy ng ganun. Art is to be consumed by everyone. So ginawa, it was Spanish Embassy mismo, the Masters in the Prado Museum, nireprint siya in large print, tapos nilagay sa public. And this actually won an international award. I'm so sorry. I forgot kung alin. Pero yun, it's because na yun, you make art accessible to the public. And then, because of that, nakita namin na dahil nandyan lang siya sa plaza, yung mga, kasi every Thursday, marami nagsisimpa ng mga semen, ganyan, mga vendors, silip-silip, ganyan, natututo sila. So then, dumami yung mga exhibition namin sa labas. Sometimes, may mga tao talagang nahihiya, ayaw talaga pumasok ng museum kasi feeling nila dapat yung suot mo, ganito, ganyan. And kung nandyan lang siya sa public, tao mismo yung lalapit. And maganda din yung output ng mga interviews na nangyari. And dahil pandemic, remind lang natin na dapat outdoor na. So yan yung strategic direction now when we talk about exhibition. How to bring it closer to the public. Okay? Yan. Ito rin, Battle of Manila, we did it also. Basically, yun nga, putting exhibits outdoor. Ito si Kuna, yun, when we talk about nga making the heritage site accessible to people, is talagang, okay, sinong gustong mag-event dito? Kasi, Carlos Celdran, the late Carlos Celdran, siya talaga yung nagsimula niyan na ipa-open yung mga site, tapos yung mga artists mag-perform, ganyan. We just made it more accessible to other people. So dati kasi parang, if you're not aware na we allow naman partnerships like that, hindi ka magtatanong. So now we encourage, ito mga artist group lang to And from music to dance to movies, makikita mo talaga na the younger generation are very aware of social ills, and they also want to help in the conversation by using their art to educate people. So I'll just show. Ayan, fun lang talaga kunwari na parang music, ganyan. Pero ang mga tinuturo dyan through music and dance and everything are awareness about certain things that we should be talking about, like gender sensitivity, ganyan. Yan. Ito, this is with unknown naman. Ito naman, we're trying to capture the higher end market din naman on music. So ito mga mostly foreign makikita nyo dito. Yan. Akala nyo din party-party lang yan. Pero yung mga acts na dyan, lahat Filipino, may mga collaboration with international artists. And then yun nga sometimes kasi parang pag foreign, it's better for most people. But if gamitin mo yung foreign influence, tas yun yung magdodraw in ng tao, tas ang napropromote pala ay Filipino art, yun. Yan yung gusto natin mangyari dun sa mga activities na ganito. Tapos makikita nyo na, especially if you talk to the people here, these are well-traveled people, diba? They always try to look for festivals and events that are happening in other key cities in the world. Bakit wala daw sa Manila? So ito yung ginawa namin. Plus, may mga art installations dyan na talagang ma-amaze ka kung gaano kagaling ang Filipino artists natin. And then, when you talk about design, lighting, mga bagay na ganyan, people think we're behind, hindi. Sobrang galing ng Philippines pagdating sa mounting ng mga events, yung mga videos and lights, mga ganyan. Ayan. So, yun. Dahil sumikat talaga yung Intramuros dati, ikaw pa yung mahihiya for partnership. Ngayon, sila na yung lumalapit. Si Grab, sila yung nag-offer na, okay, we'll have you use it for free kasi we're aligned with your vision, to talk about environmentally sustainable means of traveling, ganyan. Ngayon lang binawi nila kasi pinahiram nila sa frontliners. And then, of course, there's BAM Bikes. BAM Bikes is our #1 partner pag pinopromote namin yung biking talaga. And this was before the pandemic pa. And lagi pag may events kami, BAM Bike is like, sige, how can we help? How can we promote this event? So, syempre, pag may visitors sila mismo yung nagdadala dun sa mga events namin. Yan. Another one is the Old Manila Eco Market. Dahil nga dumadami yung food traffic, lumapit sila sa amin, sabi, so may advocacy kami, which is like environmental sustainability, ganyan. And then we also want to employ kasi yung mga residents nyo, baka itong market na gagawin natin can help them. Tapos sabi namin, sige, okay lang, pero kasi ang dami ng Changi all over Manila. What's different with this? Sabi na, only environmentally sustainable materials and products will be sold. Sabi namin, okay, sige, pero can we make sure na hindi greenwash? Kasi sometimes ngayon, di ba, ginagamit na rin yung market and products. So talagang lahat ng merchants dyan, pinipili talaga namin isa-isa. And sobrang thankful kami sa Old Manila Eco Market that we've partnered since 2018. At tapos, ang dami nang nagbungang other projects from this. Pero yun nga, ang dami naming residents na nagkaroon ng additional job because of this. Plus, yun nga, we were able to, strict kami dyan, apart from environmentally sustainable materials, na totoo, is micro and small medium enterprises na strictly Filipino. So, bawal magbenta dyan ng mga products na imported. Yun, dahil sa Old Manila Eco Market, syempre, within the circles nila, yan, lumapit naman ang Uproot Urban Farm. So, nung pandemic, pinatayo namin ito. It's an aquaponics farm and yung mga pedicab drivers, yung mga nanay na nawalan ng income dahil walang turismo, trinain namin sila to farm. And then, now, inaantay lang namin yung bunga, pero basically the point is they'll have access to more affordable food for their families, and pag naging sustainable na yun, they'll be able to sell their produce, which is usually mga gulay, to the restaurants and hotels within the district. Diba? So, for the hotels, mababawasan yung carbon footprint nila by purchasing closer to home. Yan. So, yan yung mga product na bumubunga kasi dumadami talaga yung mga tao na I wanna help, and this is how I can help. But I'll just skip the video, but it's basically one of the waiters na sabi niya, dahil pedicab driver siya sa Intramuros at nag-benefit siya dun sa training ng DOT, mas gumanda yung future niya for his family. Ayan. Kasi ito, yun nga, marami lang talagang may mga sariling idea, and then they just talk to us, and then of course, we're gonna partner with you because you're promoting Intramuros to a younger generation, and parang for them, it's play. You make cutouts, diba? You make a model. Pero ang point nito is na i-educate mo na yung mga bata of what Intramuros is. Kasi they don't know now when Intramuros was the center of politics, education, governance of Spain out in Asia at that time, diba? So, yan, when it comes to film, okay, gusto nating ipaalala ang rich history ng Pilipinas and at the same time, valor, heroism. So yan yung mga movies na pinapakita natin dyan. So hindi siya fun lang na outdoor film screening. It's so fun watching movies under the stars. Important sa amin dito ano ba yung movies na pinapanood natin. So also we partner with the ABS-CBN Film Restoration, so the Film Development Council. So yan, we get to know of films. May ganito pala. Ito pala yung longest full-length film na shoot sa Philippines. Mga ganun bagay. So yan, hopefully we'll be able to do more pag better na yung situation, especially outdoor. So lower risk for COVID. So hopefully lang payagan na kami magawa yung mga. Holy Week, ito yung activity na stop ng after World War II, hindi na siya naulit-ulit yung bisita iglesia. So, kinausap na namin, again, it's like engaging the community, the churches there. Apparently, EIR, may chapel, diba? Surprise! So, yun. Now, you'll be able to go to 9. Ito 10 na yata before the pandemic na nag-open talaga yung mga schools, yung mga hindi mo napupuntahan dati na mga chapel, ganyan, yan, open sila. So then you'll be able to do Holy Week activities just by visiting the So partnership, foreign band, match, Posporo, as in literal match, foreign band partner with the Filipino band, and then nag-collaborate sila. So, may mga learnings kami na may mga indigenous musical instruments na meron din sa probinsya sa Spain, yung mga ganyan. So parang we're past talking about differences. We're now talking about, things that bring people together. Ito, with the Film Development Council of the Philippines, we did a 24-hour filmmaking challenge. Ang galing. These are students lang at ang genre lang nila comedy, horror, ganyan. Hindi namin sinabi kung ano dapat yung kwento. And the movies that they created were about gender equality, LGBTQIA, mental health. So nagulat kami na kung ganito ang future ng filmmakers ng Pilipinas, you're talking about a bright future. Yan. And then fashion, this is a project of Congresswoman Crystal Bagatsing na nakakalimutan yung Filipiniana and laging sinasabi it's Spanish daw. Pero no, it's actually Filipino. So they spoke to designers, may mga collaboration, and then open call ulit ito. So anyone, kahit hindi ka talaga designer, pero feel mo you'll be able to create. Yan. Ito yung ginawa namin event. Outdoor events, this is Anthology, which is the International Architecture Festival. Sikat na sikat to in Southeast Asia, and they've been doing it even before we came in Intramuros. So, naging continuous lang siya kasi yung mga, again, ang mga pinag-uusapan na dito ay sustainability. How architecture is supposed to contribute like in the planning of a city. Mga ganyan pa. Again, yung ginagawa ni na Carlos natin, talagang ino-open lang. Sabi namin, sige, literal, let's do an open house. So we open all our sites for free, and then we talk to the private museums and sites kung pwedeng mag-open din sila for free. Tapos yan, makita mo talaga, grabe, ang daming tao niyan. Tapos, syempre, isip kami ng mga maraming pakulo since nandito na yung tao, diba? Minsan nga, nagsasabay-sabayan. Pero pag sinabi namin yung partners, Pampay, Old Manila, other locators, ganito yung gusto namin gawin. Because they're part of the conversation. They also get excited and then sila na, can you do this? Can you do that? Kasi ito yung pwede namin i-contribute. Can you do this? So now, nag-create talaga siya ng family within Intramuros na dati ang seamless. Pag sinabi mo, may open house tayo, sige, mag-iisip na sila ng sarili nilang activities para mas maraming puntahan yung mga tao pagpunta nila ng Intramuros. This is one of the biggest concerts that we did. Ito, more than a concert, may mga sikat bands na tayo, diba? Sabi namin, it's important also that we give a platform to newer bands. So sabi namin, sige, pwede magko-concert tayo, pero yung mga front acts, kailangan either bands of schools, they're from the schools in Intramuros, or at least residents sa Intramuros. So yan, the Bed Bites, Sherry, yan. We gave them a platform, for them to be known. Kasi andyan naman na yung bigger bands to bring in the people. Might as well benefit newer acts, diba? Kasi honestly, Ben and Ben, when they were starting before Fête de la Musique, konti-konti lang nanonood. Nakita ko sila mag-evolve na everything they did an event in Intramuros. From counting people from a 4 o'clock front act to where they were during their last concert with Coke in Fort Santiago na talagang halos mahimatay yung mga tao sa dami. Makikita mo talaga na yung OPM, malakas siya and the younger population engages. And if that's our way to make our youth interested in heritage, kasi nandito na sila parang, ay, ang ganda. And then, yan na, yung curiosity nila about the place. Diyan na magsisimula. And ito, Puesto, si B, one of her partners also, meron siyang store. He took over the store of Carlos Eljan in Plaza San Luis. And dahil sa kaka-open house namin, nabuo din itong We Art Intramuros na parang, okay, at least ito, we'll try to do it na every Saturday. Tapos ang focus niya naman dito are artists. So more on painters, mga caricatures, mga comics, ganyan. So yan, bumunga ng mas maraming events pa and community engagement dahil ino-open natin yung venues. Basta basically, pag may lumapit sa amin, sabi, okay, let's see how we can make it happen. And nag-aaralan namin how we'll be able to engage. At the same time, dapat aligned sila sa vision namin to promote Intramuros and how to educate the people through their event. So yan, bumunga din yung young scholars. Sabi ko nga, yung usapin ng culture and history, bakit ba lagi sinasabi pang matatanda lang, ganyan. So yung young scholars conference na stinart namin, ito naman, giving the platform to the younger scholars to talk about heritage and culture. So yan, millennials to even Gen Zs. Yan. Third year na namin this year. So si John has been very, very the success of the Young Scholars Conference would be if hindi kay John. Si John talagang tumututok talaga dito sa project. So I'm very excited for the third year. Sana paypayan niyo din. So yun, moving forward, given the pandemic, ito nga, giving focus now to the region. How will more people know about what's happening in the rest of the country? Na bakit ba minsan ang usapan, I'm proud Igorot, I'm proud Batanggenyo, I'm proud Tabawenyo, Cebuano. Pero yung talking about nation, the identity of a Filipino as a whole, why are we somewhat so segmented? Maybe because we're not aware of what else is there outside from where we were born or outside kung saan tayo lumaki at saan tayo nagtatrabaho. So yun nga, parang we really want to make Intramuros a platform for people to learn more from each other and to understand each other. And eventually, ito nga, yung mga collaboration na ganito, maybe ito yung solution natin sa masyadong divided feeling of the Filipino people. Diba? So ito, dapat gagawin nga namin siya ng March to December during the pandemic na may art and film and the food nga from the regions pupunta dito sa Intramuros. And ang maganda dito, very contemporary siya. So now, when you talk about a weekend, kunyari dati, diba, nung Wow Philippines, it was just one region for 1 month. Ito, sabi namin, let's partner. So kunyari, music from, we designed that the performances to be music from car, ang dance performance galing sa Mindanao. Ganon. So, para makikita natin na parang sobrang rich ng culture ng Pilipinas that we should be so proud of, diba? Kung grabe tayo makapag-promote ng K-pop, BTS, ganyan, dapat ganun tayo sa sarili. Yan. Dahil dyan, tapos na yung toko pero plug lang ako. Yan. So, we have been nominated again for the World Travel Awards. Right now, we're nominated for the Asia's leading tourist attraction. Last year, we won Asia and then we won World. So we want to ask your help again to help us win again, of course, diba? And tinatanong sa akin, parang popularity contest lang naman yan. Bakit naman important siya kasi ngayon, during the pandemic, kailangan, for tourist sites, kailangan maging top of mind ka na pag nag-travel yung tao, gugustuhin niyang doon pumunta sa destination mo. So apart from that is, we really want to boost. Alam niyo naman, sobrang hardest hit yung tourism industry, yung aming mga tour guides, mga kutsero, mga pedicab driver, mga restaurant. Kita niyo talaga na ang hirap pa sabihin kung kailan kami mag-go back sa sobrang daming events na nagagawa, diba? So this is kind of giving them a boost na there's a future. They still have something to look forward. Diba? At para ayusin ko lang din yung kwento ko, yung going back to the Toho vendor na nagtanong sa akin, start ng GCQ, kailan ba mag-resume yung event? Nung pinayagan na, diba, nag-open kami ng mga Feb. Sabi niya, ma'am, hindi pa rin ganun kadami yung tao, pero at least dumadami na yung tao. Pangatlong refill ko na to. Ay, talikod ako, matik iyak ako. Kasi ito yun ito yung point kung bakit namin ginagawa ito. Na more than protecting Intramuros is how will the most vulnerable people benefit from it. So yan yung importance ng tourism. At ang bansa natin, 13% ng ating labor force ay nasa tourism. So sana gawin natin yan, not only for Intramuros but our heritage sites. Give them something to look forward to. Ayan. So ito po ang way para ma-vote tayo as Asia's leading tourist attraction. So basically, once we get a certain number of votes for Asia, we get nominated for World also. So last year nanalo tayo ng Asia and World. So please ulitin natin yan this year. Madali lang naman mag-vote at libre siya. Ayan. So please promote to all your friends. Ayan. Yan, that's the end of my talk. Follow our social media accounts. And then, ayan, I'm ready for the Q&A.
Maraming salamat, Sheena, dyan sa iyong presentation. Share ko lang sa ating mga audience. Itong si Sheena, she's like the little administratrix of English. Yan yung tawag ko sa kanya. Kasi when it comes to special events and branding and communication, siya talaga yung go-to. So siya yung nakikiharap sa mga partners. Siya talaga yung nag-spirit. Kumbaga, she has a very crucial role sa...
Pero yan? Pero sinasabi yan ng mga tao, parang yes, pero it all boils down to the administrator kasi na, sir, may idea ko, may naisip ako, sir, may nakita ko sa ganito, pwede ba natin gawin? And, you're only as effective and as efficient as your superior. Alam natin yan sa government. And si our administrator talaga, lagi siyang, if it hasn't been done before, sige, explore mo kung paano. Ganon. Kaya nag-open up, nagma-mushroom talaga, na sabi ko nga, a lot of people are willing to help. They just want the platform.
Yeah.
At yun yung ginagawa natin sa Intramuros.
Yeah, so you've been very busy these past 4 years. So it's been 4 years na pala since we started.
Oh, surprise!
So just a question lang. In the last 4 years that you have been with IA, ano for you was the most challenging na project or program?
The most challenging, yung sa regions. Kasi yung ideas na yan, yung sa vendors, yung sa mga chef, parang 2017 ko pa siya naisip. Pero hindi siya nabibigyan ng budget. Yan. And again, guys, don't hate on it. Ang gobyerno natin, we only have very limited budget. And syempre, uunahin nila yung mga social services, things like that. So, pagdating talaga sa heritage at culture, medyo challenge talaga yan na i-justify mo sa TBM na, tayo kasi, we're involved. So, we know how it directly affects people, diba? Pero pag, diba, siguro pag binasa mo dyan si TBM, pag nabasa niya na, regional flavors, bakit natin po? So, basically, nakuha na yung budget for 2020 na sana, pero yun, nag-pandemic naman. So,
a lot has been done for the past 40 years, especially in the last
yes.
Now,
actually, yeah, the Museo de Intramuros, that's why it took that long, dahil budget talaga.
Yeah, given if, halimbawa, we continue the same progress at this rate, how do you see Intramuros 40 years from now?
Honestly, it's I don't like comparing internationally, pero tayo kasi, di ba, pag sinabi mong naka-travel ka, lagi natin iniisip travel abroad.
Yeah.
So, when you compare, honestly, okay, 2016, the Spanish Embassy, I was with Tiesa pa, I was in Tourism Infrastructure, Admin GNI. We were invited to go to a technical visit in Cartagena de Indias, which is literally the Intramuros in Colombia. And at the time, ito yung kakatapos si Pia Wurtzbach na koronahan after Colombia. So, share ko lang. Tinatawag ako Miss Universe pagdating to tell Filipino pass. Anyway, pagdating ko doon, sabi ko, pag naayos yung Intramuros, mas maganda pa siya than this. So, parang, now that we're started, and especially, very important, nakikita mo yung private sector, they see now the importance of investing in the district. I think 40 years from now, talagang we don't even have to, ito mga World Travel Awards, hindi na namin kailangan mag-campaign. Pusa na lang siya mangyayari. Talaga, ito yung pinaka-sikat na destination here.
Yeah. But even though Intramuros is already self-promoting, iba pa rin talaga yung may vision. No?
Oo naman. Tsaka ako, for me talaga, what's more important, that's why I miss face-to-face events, is when someone comes to me na parang, because I attended this event, mas mahal ko na yung Pilipinas. And ang hirap-hirap niyang i-quantify at sabihin sa national agencies na ito yung output namin. Kasi how do you measure nationalism? How do you measure love of country? Diba? And yun nga, sabi nga ni Admin G, diba, ang ating mentor ay let your work speak for itself. And for me, ito talaga, yung the fact na we don't need to promote Intramuros. And yan, people like Prince and Bea, nagkaroon ng, diba, ng movement ngayong pandemic na mag-share ng sarili nilang arts and talents to promote Intramuros. So, kahit tayo sa agency shops, paano ba natin, how do we practice our mandate virtually? And then, lalabas na itong mga tao na parang, hey, I have my talent, I'm good at doing this, and I can actually help promote Intramuros. So, yun yung gusto nating exercise na sometimes kasi when you talk about nation building, parang maliit lang ako anong i-contribute ko? Pero actually, your talents and skills that make you happy can actually be your means of showing your love of country. Like buskers, for example, they feel like, performer lang ako. Sabi ko, you're one of the reasons why another person wants to come and see the heritage site. So actually, you're contributing to, nation building by sharing your talent, mga things like
that. You mentioned kanina yung face-to-face. So gusto ko lang mag-zero in doon. With regard to the pandemic kasi, we can see it na parang, of course, it's a handicap for our efforts in Intramuros. But how do we convert it into an opportunity? So how do you turn around this pandemic, this lack of access, physical access to the site? So how do we convert it into something that is like making the most of it? So how do we make it an opportunity?
Yeah, actually, itong Intramuros Learning Session na to, number 1, di ba? Syempre, nung pandemic, biglaan. As in, ang dami naming events na actually, 2020 was supposed to be a milestone year for Intramuros. As in, sobrang dami naming events. At ito talaga yung kusa talaga nang galing sa community na this is what we want to do. Pero yun, biglaan yung pandemic, hindi kami as prepared na kailangan virtual. Kasi nga kami, events, like on-site kami, di ba? So nag-isip kami how do we practice our handling virtually, which is to educate talaga, yan ang point namin. And if you go to our YouTube, I've done so many talks about this in other platforms na talagang may mga virtual tours kami. Ito, Intramuros Learning Session, we learn from from the experts, and actually marami akong learnings from the Intramuros Learning Session na naiisip ko, pwede natin gawing project. And ito yung mga partners na pwede natin itapon yan. Tapos, in terms of, syempre, hindi makapag-field trip ang mga bata, di ba? Nabuhay ang kulay ng kasaysayan. Meron kaming, colleague, si Diego. Napakagaling niyang mag-drawing. Sabi namin, naalala mo yung Papilan? Bilang 90s kid kami ni Rancho dito eh. Naalala mo yung Papilan? Nagtuturo na siya mag-drawing. Sabi ko, hindi na kayo tayo para sa mga bata. Ayun, nabuhay yung kulay ng kasaysayan. At meron na kaming videos na nagtuturo si Diego. He's teaching about the history of Intramuros. Pero nagtuturo din siya mag-drawing. Tapos, after nyan, may parent na nag-message na parang, I'm having a hard time teaching history to my children kasi hindi ako sanay mag-homeschool. So sabi namin, you know what, Diego, maybe you can develop materials, like story materials, na coloring materials. So, yun, Diego would do the drawings, John would do the narrative, tapos ako yung maglili. As in, promise, lahat na lang talaga parang ano pang pwede natin gawin. And then, dumating si Google Arts and Culture. Pwede palang magkaroon ng online exhibition. So, yun, pag hindi kayo makapunta sa Museo de Intramuros, you can view some of our collection in the Google Arts and Culture. Tapos, yan, syempre as technology develops because of this pandemic, may mga nagpa-partner pa sa amin. So, I think last week, Kumu ba? Yeah, may mga ganyan. Actually, marami pang mga in the works. Kaya, stay tuned. But the point is, committed kami sa Intramuros na hindi makalimutan ang history and culture kahit hindi pa makabisita yung mga tao.
We have a comment from Jess Alif, this Wasido. Sabi niya, Sheena, what a great talk. From structured content to presentation, really inspiring programs, intelligently thought of, and the insights you shared hold very valuable information. Could just imagine how fun the brainstorming sessions are. Excited to revisit Intramuros in the near future, i.e. my benta.
Si Jess, kilala ko to eh, architect to, we went to the same grade school instead Baguio.
Oh.
Thank you for tuning in. Minsan hindi mo alam kung saan maabot yung mga links, diba? Thank you. Pero yan ang masaya. Minsan nga sa event, may magpa-participate. Tapos lalapit sa amin, mamaya parang, may naisip ako, because of the movie, I was inspired to do this. And I know someone, can we meet? Yung ganun lang, very casual kwentuhan. And then yan, magpa-mushroom yung mga project. Yung mga kwento ko kanina, yung iba dyan, inuman session, lumabas yung mga ideas na ganyan.
Yes. Dear audience, kung meron pong katanungan, you're encouraged to raise them. So if you're viewing via Zoom, meron po tayong Q&A button and chat button below. If you are viewing via Facebook, feel free to raise them in the comment section below. So keep them coming kung may mga tanong. We have a question from...
hirap ng mga tanong sa Q&A. Wait lang.
Ito, meron tanong si Anonymous. Sino kaya ito? Sabi niya, any plans to have a restaurant or food-related tour program in Intramuros or something related to culinary tourism?
Oo. Yun nga, the project we were supposed to do with the vendor sana. The end goal there is we'll have a Hawkers Plaza in Intramuros that showcases the different food from all over the region. Plus, hindi lang siya marketed as a whole, but the restaurants there right now, Barbara's, Ilustrados, ganyan. They're existing naman. Like if you visit Intramuros, like may mga different restaurants dyan, yung Mitre, ganyan. Magkakaiba yung character nila. And, yun, they promote themselves like individually. Pero like, to have a tour kasi, medyo hindi pa siya na-develop. Pero that's easily, speaking of Madrid Fusion Manila, which is, yun nga, one of the international events that ginawa natin ng site enhancement. They did a project there at that time na, yun nga, because we had chefs na foreign, pumunta sa Intramuros. They work with Patio de Conchita, so the mga lower end na restaurant. So, yan, that's probably something we could develop. Siguro with our open spaces right now, may naisip ako right now, na dahil outdoor dapat ang dining, diba? Baka pwede tayong mag-pop up ng yung mga restaurants natin, mag-locate in one of our gardens, diba? Since uso ang outdoor dining, and then you can taste food from the diba? May naisip tayo ngayon. Maraming salamat, Anonymous, at Teddy. Pipitch ko yan kay Boss mamaya.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so since we're already thinking outside the box, have you considered dark tourism as well?
Well, honestly, this is something na organically nangyayari siya. Minsan nga nalalaman na lang namin sa social media na hindi nagpapaalam sa atin. And Sa amin lang, parang okay, again, we're talking about creativity, kanya-kanyang expression, diba? Kami on our end, at least we try to reach out na ayusin natin yung narrative, huwag tayo nag-invento ng mga kwento. Kasi again, kung ano yung kwento, yan na yung mga nag-shape ng idea or identity ng isang lugar. And if nandun tayo sa scaring, diba? Kunyari, pag pinag-usapan natin yung tawag dito, customs house, yung aduana, if we talk about the horrors lang and we don't talk about how it was where we first printed our money, diba? Parang wag nating kakalimutan yung more important, which is what we should be proud of sa place na yun. So, paano ba? Acknowledge na they exist, but especially yung sa dungeons, we just make sure, dahil yan talaga yung panghila sa horror tours nila, is wag kakalimutan na ang point ng dungeons na yan is to remind us that nothing good comes out of a war. Yan.
Regarding these independent initiatives by private groups, how do we support them as an agency?
How do we support? Yan, basically, pupunta sila, ganyan. Tapos, actually, sometimes, dun, sometimes parang, kaya ang dami nangyayari all at the same time. Ang dami namang excited lang. Parang, I wanna do something. And then we ask, what do you want to do? What's your vision? Anong gusto nating i-promote? Tapos, I'm not sure Pero I want like the last one. Parang, yeah, that's existing na yan. Nag-run na yung program na yan. So ikaw, what do you want? Yan. So, dyan kami pumapasok na sometimes we link them to other government agencies. We link them to the NCCA. Parang, gusto mo, heritage o baka NHCP yung dapat mong kausapin, ganyan. So, yun, we introduce them to the right people para mag-build on yung idea. Kasi sometimes, passion lang, minsan, yun sabi ko na parang, kulang ang ganda lang, dapat may substance. So we try to help them, we try to support them by adding to the substance. Like, kunyari, we're supposed to do this, di ba uso yung mga Spartan races, ganyan. There was supposed to be a race in Intramuros na obstacle course race, but they were just talking about parang, we want to promote the Filipino warrior spirit. And then, add kami sa conversation na parang, maybe you should check with NCCA kung totoo bang, like, kung ano bang warriors or sino bang warriors ang gusto nating i-promote. So then yung branding ng event nila naging historically accurate. Yun. So yun it is basically using our connections and linking the right people together to come up with a better product for everyone. Yun.
Thank you for that. We have a comment from Reverend Father Ricardo Macalino. I miss visiting Intramuros. Thank you, Sheena, for this very informative talk. What are the major challenges in promoting and preserving in branding? So let's relate it to your talk in branding, in trying to repackage them. So what are the biggest challenges in trying to promote the intangible and the heritage, as well as the tangible heritage in Intramuros?
Well, paano ba? Challenging at first kasi sometimes kanya may event ka. How do we inject? Like, ako nangingialam ako sa script. Pwede bang we are here today at ganyan, tapos sasabihin ko, can you tell them what this place was about? And sometimes, dahil nakikialam ka na doon sa programming ng private sector, sometimes it's also, it has resistance. But when you explain to them na kaya kami nakipag-partner sa inyo is para ma-promote yung place at ma-educate yung tao, kailangan may mauuwi silang information dito. So yun lang. It's not really that much of a challenge. It's more of how will we be able to speak it in their language. Now, when we talk about educating people, how do we inject it in your programming? Or, kunyari, yan, yung, Pepsi yata yun, they wanted to redesign the kiosk, ganyan, iba siya dun sa output ng study na ginawa. So, yun. So, syempre, branding, kailangan nandyan yung, or better, the better example is yung, meron kaming bagong bike rack sa Plaza Roma. This is donated by Allianz through the City of Manila. Naggawa sila ng mga bike racks in different places in the city. And basically, corporate just want to donate bike racks. Tapos they wanted to promote Filipino culture, ganyan. So, yung designs ng mga bike racks nila ngayon sa Intramuros, Calesa. Diba? Para yun yung ma-promote. If you go to Capitolio, naman yung tawag dito? Oh my God, it's escaping me right now. Yung itak ng mga katipunero. Yan. So, dyan mo makikita na corporate intentions can be used to express, certain narratives in our history and culture na win-win for both. So yun, more of just really speaking the language of kumbaga, kung ang objective nyo lang ay corporate social responsibility, how do we maximize that? By actually having something tangible na magbe-benefit yung community in general.
It's quite refreshing to know that the Intramuros administration is open to partnerships to bright ideas. So if you have any bright ideas out there, so if you have any good ideas, feel free to pitch in. We have Sheena over here who will be happy to listen to you. Now for events, something about events. Is it necessary that events are related to history and heritage, or can we have any kind of event?
Hindi contemporary yung pinakita ko kanina, unknown. Ano yun it's basically a music festival. There are DJs, it's a party, literally. But there, nai-inject nyo na, sponsor si San Miguel. Now you talk about the importance of San Miguel and why we should be proud of San Miguel as a beer na kilala siya all over the country, all over the world, di ba? And then, dyan ipapasok mo na how do you promote the newer acts, ganyan. So, alam mo yun, ginamit lang yung Intramuros as a background for the event. Pero ang pinupush dyan, yun nga, yung art installations, new contemporary artists, ganyan. So, hindi siya strictly heritage event, pero Filipino culture. Basta, ang main goal lang naman nito, ng mga projects na pinapasukan namin is, ang mga measures of success natin dyan talaga ay ano yung na-promote. Yun nga, ang hirap lang kasi i-quantify yung ilang tao ang lalong minahal ang Pilipinas dahil dun sa event or project na yun. Pero yun, it's really a matter of speaking to our partners what they want. Ano yung bare minimum nila? Tapos hanggang saan natin siya pwede i-elevate.
And I think when we diversify events as well, we're actually tapping into markets that are otherwise not interested in Intramuros.
Exactly. Actually, very good, John, na pinoint out mo yan. Kasi nga, hindi ko talaga naiintindi. Ako kasi I grew up in Baguio, so medyo natural yung art. I mean, grade school namin, you talk about the parts of the cell. We have to write poetry about the parts of the cell. I mean, sanay ako sa ganun. And then come here na parang, bakit when we started in Intramuros, libre events namin, hindi namin ma-invite yung community na nakatira. Hindi namin ma-invite yung students. So, hindi siya socio-economic issue. Parang, bakit ayaw lang nila? Libre naman. Ano ba yung point? Yung pala, ano ba dapat kasi? They feel like parang when you cultural events daw, kailangan you're dressed a certain way kasi pang mayayaman lang yan. Hindi ko talaga naiintindihan kung bakit, pero yan yung gusto natin i-break by trying to capture different kinds of markets. Like, alam ko before parang cosplayers, yan. Siyempre mga newer generation, we're aware. But siyempre, makakarinig ka na parang, bakit pinayagan yung mga ganyan? Or bakit niya inalaw yung mga bikers na mag-converge dyan sa Intramuros, parang magkakaiba tayo ng expression. Pero kami, at the end of the day, the higher the foot traffic, the better for everybody. So yun, tama si John, we really try our best to capture even those they think aren't interested. So, mamaya, dahil nandun na sila, ang ganda na to, tapos magpo-post siya ng picture, na-promote na niya sa circles niya, and then yung circles niya, important conversation dito. When we open the Museo de Intramuros, grabe social media. Andiyan na naman yung mga judgment, true. Dapat ang museum na yan para sa ganito, ganyan lang. May lengthy Facebook post about it. So, bakit tayo ganyan pagdating sa heritage? Ang heritage ay pagmamayari ng lahat ng Pilipino. Regardless kung saan ka pinanganak, mayaman ka o mahirap, pagmamayari natin lahat yan. So who are you to say that it shouldn't be for the judgments? How could you say you can't sit with us? We all own it Actually, dapat nga, happy kayo. Kasi, yun, feeling nyo yung mga younger ones ay pa-picture lang. They do it for Instagram. Yeah, maybe they do that. But when they're already there, they see things that will probably strike their curiosity. Every photo that gets posted on social media reaches people that we might not reach through our own channels and our own circles. And again, when you talk about development, tigilan na natin yung nandito lang tayo sa ating echo chamber, di ba? We should be able to make it more accessible to those na wala talagang access. So yun. Akin lang, kaya tayo gumagawa ng maraming events catering to different markets. Like gusto natin ma-break yung barrier of who should consume culture, who is culture for, mga ganyan.
For this next point, let's move away muna from tourism. Let's talk about muna the residents. Now, do you think that the current project, the current progress of IA is making Intramuros more livable to the point that people actually want to live here in Intramuros?
Mm-hmm. Actually, the fact nga, kaya nga tumagal yung informal settlers, so they know talaga that, okay, yun nga, pagpasok talaga namin, talagang yung conversation, the past administration kasi started the conversation of, the past administration was able to get budget to relocate the informal settlers. And again, sa usaping relocation kasi parang bumabalik sila kasi hindi sila kinakausap ng masyado, hindi sila na-engage kung bakit ba sila bumabalik. Syempre, again, I told you that the informal settler community, yan yung mga vendors natin, pedicab. So, alam nilang may role sila in the district. So, when we talk about relocating them, kailangan nandun yung conversation na paano sila makakabalik sa Intramuros to continually do their work. Kasi yun, kaya nga nag-fail yung relocation Kasi pupunta sila sa lugar na wala silang trabaho doon. Diba? So, now, yung mga events, all the more na hindi sila aalis, diba? So, ngayon, actually, before the pandemic, dapat nandun na kami sa level na may isang community na sila mismo pumili kung saan sila. Ganun kami ka-engage with our community that they're really part of the decision-making process na how they will continually be able to do their living nga in Intramuros. And I think naman dyan, ewan ko, sa amin kasi talagang kinakausap talaga namin yung mga tao doon. Yung mga dyan, nakikichis, yung kala nyo, nagmumuni-muni lang ako sa Plaza Roma, nag-e-emote-emote, nagtataho. Nakikipag-chikahan ako. Ano yung, kunyari, pag may policy ka, sisika ako. Parang, so ano talaga yung feelings na parang, one way na to. Parang, syempre, sometimes when you have, consultation, hindi pa rin nagsasalita yung mga yan. So, sa kwento talaga, sa chismis, dyan lumalabas yung mga concerns. And, yun, I think yun yung okay sa part sa community namin sa Intramuros. And hopefully in the future, yun nga, when I said na the private sector will be engaged more, probably, kasi right now, ang options mo lang are the high-end hotels and then the dorms for the mga seamen, ganyan. So wala yung mid-range traveler. You know how in other countries na yung heritage sites, about may backpackers, mga mid-range hotel, ganyan. So medyo wala tayo sa Intramuros. So hopefully, dahil mag-ayos yung marami pang mga lupa sa Intramuros that are privately owned na hindi pa nakikita ng private owners na worth it mag-invest. But hopefully, if they see na parang, okay, land values are getting higher and you're in a district, dumadami yung attraction, so na makikita nila na lucrative mag-business. But again, this is like way beyond our times. We were just happy to be part of starting it. Pero the past administration talaga started the conversation with the private owners na the campaign pa we build this city, tama ba dyan? Na the private owners will be the ones, parang IA will be able to help them market their properties. Na okay, may lupa ko dyan, pero I'm abroad or I can't really mount a business. Pero hey, with the community and Intramuros now and the foot traffic, ito na yung mga businesses na baka pwede mong i-open. So again, bottom line is win-win for everyone.
Thank you for that. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. So thank you everyone for those who raised their questions or commented in the chat button or in the comment section of Facebook. Now, before we end our open forum, one last question for you, Sheena. Considering your 10 years of experience in the tourism sector, what is your message to our young viewers who wish to pursue a career in the heritage tourism sector? Or kung hindi man young sila, yung mga hindi naman yan, pero gusto palang mag-start sa heritage and tourism sector. So what is your message for them?
Okay. Wow, naging career talk yung ending. Ang tawag dito, parang for me kasi, ako yun nga, medyo coming from a strong sense of identity. As an Igorot, I have to protect heritage. I have to promote my culture na tigilan na natin na misunderstood ang mga Igorot, di ba? So, sabi ko, parang tourism talaga yung way na maiintindihan ng mga tao ang isa't isa at lalawak yung pag-unawa natin. Because the more you get to know how other people live, di ba? Yung mga misconceptions na nalaman mo nung lumalaki ka or the family born into or the education that you had, parang we will all be kinder to each other. And tourism talaga, because you travel, you get to see how other people live. And for me, as a Filipino talaga, the more I saw the country, I've been to 41 provinces, dapat sabi ko all 81 provinces, mapupuntahan ko by age 30, pero hindi pa natin nagagawa, pero push natin sa age 40. But point is, sobrang rich ng Pilipinas sa heritage, sa culture, sa natural resources. And natural resources is still part of heritage. Na imposibleng walang turismo sa kahit anong lugar dito sa Pilipinas. And tourism, again, creates jobs. We contribute, we're the third highest GDP contributor to our, kaya nga, ramdam na ramdam natin yung impact ng pandemic na to. But, kung gusto nyo pasukin yung tourism and nakikita nyo, pandemic, may future ba? Isipin nyo na yung reasons of for people to travel before is to relax, to have relax and recreation, and para sa mental health. And all the more na nakulong tayo ng matagal, people will still want to travel. And this is backed by a survey that we did na people will still want to travel kahit may pandemic. So now, dahil medyo tatagal ang ating arrivals, international arrivals, mag-focus tayo sa domestic tourism, that maybe this is the time for us to really rediscover what is in our own hometowns. Like ako, honestly, I badly want to go back to Baguio kasi all I see in my social media, there are new locations. Oh, what, may ganito? Bakit lumaki ako doon? Hindi ko alam. And going back to the Rolling Manila project that really created a big impact in me is these Spanish architects, sinabi nila, they were so amazed with our Carinderia food culture kasi dinala namin sila sa Tondo, sa Quiapo, kung saan-saan. Yung design natin, yung art ng mga jeepney driver, mga ganyan. Sabi niya, you know, sometimes you take the most beautiful things for granted because they're always in front of you. Ako talaga parang, oo nga no, why did it have to be a foreigner to point that out to me na ang daming maganda sa Manila. Ako pag alis ko ng Diliman after crash, I don't wanna go to Manila. Dumi. Alam mo yun, parang, oo nga, why? Yun nga, the late Carla Silran sabi niya, before we can change how other people see Manila, we have to change. Tayong Filipino, we have to change how we see Manila. And I think, in nation building in general, yan yung role natin, every Filipino, to have talaga, and it's in the Tourism Act of 2009, a culture of tourism, na kailangan tayo yung talagang unang nag-promote kung ano yung meron tayo. And again, you will not know what you should be promoting if you do not know how rich we are. So yan. So, sana nabudol ko kayo. Masaya mag-work din sa government, by the way. So, sana in the future mag-work kayo sa DOT, Tourism Promotion Board, and more importantly, the tourism offices of your cities, of your province. Kailangan talaga namin ng mas creative, younger generation sa ating pagpropromote ng heritage. Ayan. Maraming salamat. Sorry, ang dami kong sinasabi kasi I get really so passionate talking about this.
Maraming salamat po, dear speaker, sa iyong napaka-enlightening and refreshing na presentation. Now, sadly, our webinar has ended. But do not worry kasi marami po pong susunod. Now, feel free to follow us in our social media. The Intramuros Administration is available in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And para sa mga na-late dito sa webinar or for those na na-miss itong episode na ito, do not worry kasi this webinar is recorded and we're going to upload in our YouTube channel. Just search for us in YouTube and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'd also like to promote our Google Arts and Google Arts and Culture page. Just key in Intramuros Administration. So a lot of our museum artifacts have been digitized already. So feel free to view them in our page in Google Arts and Culture. And let me take this opportunity as well to promote our next episode of episode number 57 of the Intramuros Learning Session. This is already next week, June 11. At 3 p.m. So we're going to have Roy De Guzman, who is the in-house architect of the San Agustin Museum in Intramuros, and he's going to talk about the architecture and environment of mother churches in Intramuros. Right. So before we end, thank you, Sheena, for that very fruitful talk. Meron ka pa bang gustong sabihin? Baka may pahabol ka?
Wala, please support Intramuros yung social media pages. And baka lang, kasi usually when I give talks, medyo na-overwhelm ako sa mga messages. I'm currently on study leave. Pero yun nga, nagtatry tayo mag-develop ng platform to make it easier for everyone to collaborate. So, please message us, pero please be more understanding sa medyo late na response. Ayun. Maraming salamat po, and we all have a role in nation building. Let's just know what we're good at and share natin yan sa lahat.
Maraming salamat po, and maraming salamat sa lahat. See you po lahat sa susunod na webinar next week.